Hello and welcome back to another 5.6 templates tutorial. Today we're in side scrollers, adding guns and aiming and shooting mechanics. As you can see here, we've got a pistol, we've got a rifle, and they all aim towards the mouse crosshair here. And when we would let go of it, it disappears, and when we don't, it reappears again. It's all set up on jumping and on aiming and everything, so we can shoot towards our mouse. As usual, any questions, anything that you want to see in the future, drop a comment on the video or join the Discord and ask away. Thank you for watching. I hope you've been enjoying 5.6. I think these templates are fantastic, and we'll see you on the next one. Have a great day. We're going to launch 5.6. Go to games, go to third person, drop the variant down to side scrolling, name it what you want, and click create. Once it's loaded up, go to your content drawer, go to the variant side scroller and open up level side scrolling. Also open up side scrolling blueprint, so double click on those and dock them. Now, to start with, I'm going to want to have a sort of visual representation of where we're aiming before I add in the animations to make sure that everything is working as I would expect it to. So we're going to add a arrow here, and then I'm going to create a custom event. So right click custom event. I'll call this aim, and we're going to get the player controller and convert mouse location to world space. So this gets where your mouse is and puts it in world space. And then we're going to do some complicated maths. So we're going to add the location of the world location and times that. So drag off from world direction and multiply the world direction and feed those in together. And then from world location, we're going to break vector, and from the Y, we're going to minus or subtract. And then from this subtract, that goes into the times. And then from, we're going to right click and get at to location. And again, we're going to break the vector. You can also right click this return value and break it, but I like this because it sort of explains better what I'm doing. Feed the Y into here again. And then we also want to, from the plus, get another minus and feed the return value of get at to location into here. And then we want to make a rotator from X, and we're going to promote that to a variable. So drag off from return value and promote to a variable. And this will be our aim rotation. Then we're going to get arrow 1 and set world rotation and connect aim rotation to the new rotation and this execution pin to the top. And then we're going to grab this set that we've already got and we're going to break it again. So break rotator. And then we're going to get the mesh and we're going to set world rotation. So if I didn't include this, then the mesh wouldn't rotate when we went over the top of them. So I'll show you in a sec. We're going to right click and split this and connect the Z yaw to the Z yaw. Right, and then for now, we're going to connect aim to aim rotation, and we're going to right click and type in tick. This won't be the final resting place of this, but then we're going to right click and select aim. To arrow 1, go to details, type in hidden in-game, and untick this so it's not hidden, so we can see it. Now, you can see my arrow is moving around where my mouse is. Also, our mesh isn't moving. So, like I say, I didn't connect this to show you, but if you connect this now and go back to play, then our mesh is moving, but it's moving in a weird direction. So it's not really following the arrow. So what we can do here is from Z, or we can subtract, put 90 in here, and then try again. There you go. Once we go over the top, once we hit this top thing, it rotates this way. So you're always facing the arrow direction. which way it's going. So that's the first bit. Now, at the minute, this is running on tick every single time, and that's not fantastic, but we're going to move it to not run on tick in a second. And then finally, so that we can set up our animations properly, we're going to get this aim rotation, and we are going to break it again. This will just help us set up our animations. And then from Y, we are going to map range clamped, and just before that, we are going to clamp the float. And it's going to be a minimum of -60 and a maximum of 60. And that's going to go inside the value. And I'll show you what this does. So when we're aiming, in a second when we set it up, I don't want the aim to go all the way up to 90 in the sky. So I don't want them to aim up directly. I just want them to aim up to 60, which is about here and here. So that's what this clamp float is going to do. It's going to stop them going over their head and the animation look weird. And then this map range clamp is going to take a value of -90 and 90, because that's going to be our animation aim offset, which again, I'll show you in a sec. And then it's going to take an outrange A of -1 and an outrange B of 1. So we're going to input a value. It's going to be between -60 and 60, but the actual proper value will be between -90 and 90. And then it's going to convert that to a new range between -1 and 1. So then we're going to promote this to a variable, and it's going to be our Y pitch. And we're going to put that into here. And then we're going to set up the animations. So if we come out of this blueprints folder, we can go to content, go to characters, go to mannequins, go to anims, go to pistol, and we already should have an aim. So we have AO pistol here. And if we open this up, we can see that the values are between -1 and 1, which is why we need to map the range or the clamp on this. The horizontal axis, we're not bothered about. The vertical axis is our pitch. So we're just going to put that in so that it comes up in the animation blueprint, so we know which pin to put it into. And then if we go to side scrolling character, go to the mesh, and then go to the anim class, click on this little folder, and it'll take us directly there, so we can open that up. So we need to do a couple of bits in here. The first bit is in the event graph. We're going to want to get some events. So we need the reference for the character. And from there, we need to get the Y pitch. And then we need to promote that to a variable in here and connect it to the top line. So we then double click on anim graph, and it takes us out to this slot location. And we're going to need a couple of bits here. So first off, this main state, we're going to drag off from this main state and type in cached, which is then going to save it as main state cache. So this is just like promoting it to a variable so that we can use it in other places. And then from this slot default, we're going to go backwards. We're going to do a layered blend per bone. We're going to right click and type in main state cache. And that's going to be our base pose. And then we're going to layer some poses on top of that. First off, from this layered blend per bone though, I'm going to drag out and I'm going to get a blend by all. And then in our false pose, I want to get main state cache again. And then from this active value, I'm going to promote this to a variable and then right click to rename it. This will be called our aiming. So if we're not aiming, then we're going to do this main state pose on top of this main state pose. So this layer blend per bone just splits the body, and we're going to split it sort of on the spine. So our bottom half will be running and our top half will be aiming. But if we're not aiming, then I want the top half to still do the same as the running anyway. From this true pose here, I'm going to get another layered blend per bone. from blend pose 0, I'm going to get the main state again, and then I want to have different weapon setups, so I'm just going to come to content, go to variant side scroller, and right click, type in enum. This will be e_weapon types, and then I'm going to add this to the variables here. So e weapon type, this will be weapon type, and then if we open up that new enumerator, I'm going to have two. The first one's going to be pistol, and the second one's going to be rifle. Click save, and close that, we don't need that anymore. And then if we drag out e weapon type, we can then drag from here and do blend poses, and then type in weapon. See this blend poses by weapon type, and that goes into our base pose. And if we right click on this, we can add pistol and we can add rifle. And now we're going to go to our asset browser and type in AO, and we're going to grab the pistol, and we're going to grab the AO rifle. You notice how the AO rifle doesn't have the pitch assigned, and then the AO pistol goes into pistol, obviously, and AO rifle goes into rifle. A couple of bits we need to do. So we need to get Y pitch from our variables that we set up and put that into pitch. And then we need a base pose as well. So our base pose is basically just our rifle and pistol idle. So we'll type in idle, and we've got this pistol idle ADS and this rifle ADS. So we're just going to drag that one out, make sure it's red, not green. If it's green, it means that it's an additive pose. So if you double click it, you can come down and see whether it's additive or not. But if it's red, it's not an additive pose. So put those into base pose. We need to double click on AO rifle and just make sure that our vertical axis is called pitch, just to save us a job. And then Y pitch goes into pitch. Okay, so if we compile, we're going to get an error because this doesn't have a default pose, and we can just take the idle from MM and put that into the default pose. Right, let's go sort out these layered blends for bone. So the one after E weapon, going to want to be, go to details, go to layer setup, and then we can add two here. And the first one will be hand_L of a depth of 4, and hand_R again of a depth of 4. We don't want them to change the rotation, but we do want to right click and type in default slot default slot, and then we're going to change this slot to arms. And the reason for that is that I want to play an animation on top of this. So I only want the aim offset to play on the arms and not the hands, because the hands will play a shooting animation in a second. So we already have an animation for that, so you don't need to do anything. And that is our aiming and shooting animation setup. So you can press Ctrl+C to create a comment around it. Blend poses by bool, we're only going to activate this if we're aiming. We haven't set up this aiming thing yet, but we will. And then layered pose per blend, the one between the first main cache and the slot, we're just going to go to details, add in a branch, get spine 01 of a depth of 4, and then this one we will change the rotation so that it rotates our body as we require. So now we need to set up that aiming boolean, so we can grab our aiming and press set and grab our character, and then back in our character we can come here, right click and type in right mouse button, and if it's pressed, then we want to create a new variable of a boolean and call it aiming. We're going to press start, So we're going to drag out and get set, and when we press it, it's true, and when we release it, it's false. And I'm going to convert all of these into proper input mappings as well in a second. I just want to make sure all of this works first. So back to that animation blueprint, we can now get aiming and put that into the set aiming that we have here. And now when we press play, you can see that we're aiming. So we can see that there's a problem here. So when I let go of the mouse button on this side, it's all fine. We go backwards as we would expect. But it locks the rotation. So I am moving backwards, but I'm running backwards rather than facing the right way. Okay. So that's twofold. Number one, the event tick is running all the time. So we can put a branch here and get aiming. So we can only do this when it's aiming. So now it will fix it, but it will scupper us for next time. So if I release it here, I turn around and I'm running the incorrect way. What we're going to do is when we release aiming, we're going to get this aim rotation and break it again. And again, you can right click this and split the struct, but I like to do the break so I know which variable is coming off this. And then we can get our capsule component, which is this top one, and we can set world rotation and feed in the Z. So we're going to right click on this new rotation and split it and feed in the Z here. And then from capsule component, we're going to get world rotation, right click this one to split it, and we're going to then get the mesh and set world rotation, right click to split it again, and we need to do minus 90 here from the Z. We'll compile and save, and now when we stop aiming, we should be able to turn back to normal and run the correct way, no matter which way our arrow is facing. Now I said that this wasn't brilliant because this is running all the time. So if I print this and press play, then it's constantly running and checking. So I don't really want that to be a thing. So what we're going to do is we're going to come out of here, go to our blueprints, right click, create a blueprint class of a actor component, and I'm going to call this BP side scroll aiming. So then I'm going to get all this code of this aim function that's on event tick. And I'm going to copy it and paste it over to BP side scroll aiming. And then for event tick, I'm going to then call aim. Press compile. We get a bunch of errors, which is fine because now we know this works. We don't actually need this arrow set up here, so we're going to skip that and delete it. Compile again. We're going to promote this aim rotation to a variable, so right click it and it will promote. This mesh, we're going to right click and get owner, and then from here we're going to get component by class, and we want the skeletal mesh component, and that will be our mesh. So we're going to compile again. Y pitch we can promote to a variable, compile, and then get at to location. Just going to drag off from here and get owner again, get the component and compile. I'm going to have a custom event, so right click and get a custom event, and then from here I'm going to do start. We're going to call this control tick, and then we're going to right click and get set tick, set component tick enabled. Pass this into here, and then this enabled goes to here. And then from class defaults, I'm going to start with tick enabled and turn it off. Back in our side scroller, we don't need this tick stuff here now, so we can delete this. And we don't need all of this aim stuff either. And we've already got the Y pitch set up, so we can delete this. So Y pitch, delete, aim rotation, delete. And then if we add the side scroll aiming component here, we can drag this out and we can get aim rotation, shove this into here, click compile, and that's all fine. And now from BP side scrolling, we can get the control tick, and we can put aiming into here so it's true. And then when we stop aiming, so we can control and C that and control and V it to paste it down here. And we can control it that way. This will break our ABP, but that's fine because we can do get side scroll, get BP side scroll aiming, and then we can do get Y pitch and put it into set Y pitch. We can compile that, it goes back to normal, go back to side scrolling, and now you can see our arrow isn't moving, but we don't need an arrow anymore because we have our character aiming as normal. So we can get rid of that arrow. And then we get an error here. That's fine. So we can right click, convert this to a validated get. Just make sure it's valid before we set it. And then back in our side scroll character, get rid of this arrow one. And that's fine. And now for aiming, we're going to come to our variants, come to input, go to actions. So we're going to come to content, go to actions, and then where we are IA jump, we're just going to control D that, call this IA aim. Double click to open that up. Let's make sure that it is a boolean. It is. And it's on pressed and released. So we can just delete those. If we go to the player controller, we can find that we're adding the mapping context in the side scroller. So click on this magnifying icon and double click IMC side scroller, go to input mappings, and we'll add aim here. Right click when you select the keyboard and right click. Back it in our side character. I'll come down to this right mouse button, type in IA aim, and then on triggered, I'm going to put it into start, and on completed, I'm going to put it into this stop that we had there. We probably just want to do this on do once, because we don't want to continuously bang the tick and tell it what to do. We only want to do it once. And then from completed, we can press S and get a sequence and reset and stop. And now we're aiming, we let go, we go back to our run. It doesn't matter where we are, we're still doing our run. Yeah. And I had set up a weapon switch, hadn't I? So let's go back to the input actions, and we'll create a new one. So we can right click, get input actions, call this IA weapon switch, double click that, make sure it's on a boolean again, and then inside the IMC I'm going to add a new one for IA weapon switch, and this will be on Q. Back inside scrolling character, what we're going to do is right click and I say IA weapon switch. We're going to add our variable in here for weapon type. For that weapon type. And then we're going to get weapon type and we're going to do a switch on E weapon type. And if we're in pistol, we're going to drag out weapon type and get a set. And if we're in rifle, we're going to go back to pistol. We'll control C, control V that. If we're in pistol, we're going to go to rifle. And this will be just unstarted. So now in the animation blueprint, we want to get character, get weapon type, and get our weapon type that we've got set up here and set. Connect those together. And then when we play, I can press Q and it'll switch straight away to a rifle. Like so. So we're going to go to variant side scroller, go to blueprints, go to items. I'm just going to set up a projectile. So BP, blueprint class, actor, sort of BP underscore bullet, because I want to see it. Open that up, dock it. I'm going to add a static mesh of a spear. And then I'm going to reduce the size of that. So like 0.5, 0.5, 0.5. There we go. And then I'm going to add projectile movement. And I'm going to make the initial speed like 5,000. And everything else is the same. Compile that, save it. Go back to our side scroll blueprint. And I'm going to do a left mouse button. So from here, we're going to get aiming. And from there, we're going to drag off and get branch. So if we are aiming, then we're going to be allowed to shoot something. And we're going to spawn actor from class. And this will be our bullet. And from there, I'm going to get mesh and get socket location. And this will be and underscore R. The spawn transform, we're going to split it. And then the rotation will be our side scrolling aim. We can get rotation from here. This socket location, you should, whenever you set up a weapon, you just need to make a new socket called like muzzle or something and feed the target as your weapon. I'm just going to have it come from my hand for the time being, just because this video is getting pretty long anyway. We press start, and now we've got bullets shooting wherever we are aiming. And you can set up how they do damage and anything like that. And if we want an animation, because we have an animation, so we're going to come off here and we're going to do play montage. Skeletal mesh will be our mesh. And then we want the pistol fire montage. So now this is why we set up those arm things, because you might not be able to see it. But he is pulling his left hand back. So he's doing a shooting on here. If I swap to the rifle, you can see he's pulling the trigger as well. Now to add the mouse button, we're going to right click and get player controller. And we're doing this on the IA aim. And then we're going to get show mouse cursor, set show mouse cursor. And on aim, we're going to take that to be true. And on not aim, so we control that and view that. I'm going to set that to be not true. And then we can add a static mesh to our character. And so we just click static mesh. And then we can set up our guns on that. So once you've got a gun from Fab, just come down here, and when you switch, set the static mesh to the new model. There is also a weapon hand that you already have, so parent socket hand grip R. That's the one that you want to have as the parent socket. And then when you swap, it should swap all your static meshes. And inside the static mesh, so if we just open up your static mesh, go to socket manager and add a socket for muzzle to all of them. Just make sure it's towards the front. And when we're doing, instead of doing hand R, we're just going to do muzzle instead. And then you can just swap between your guns and fire them as you wish. So, not included it in here because the video is getting quite long, and the models that I downloaded here weren't of a good size, so I had to spend 10 minutes resizing them. And there are other tutorials on the channel for that. So please forgive me, but I didn't think you'd want to watch an hour-long video of how to resize stuff. So have a great day, and I hope to see you in the next one.